Hey guys, welcome back to this vlog. As you can see, I'm outside. I'm on my lunch break, so that's why I look this way, and I'm just sitting out in the nice weathers that we have out here. But today I wanted to do this video on, obviously, as the title says, what is Ifa really all about? Um, and I think that's a very important question, because there are a lot of different opinions out there, and there are a lot of different examples that are being set by people um, that some are positive examples and some may not be so positive. Um, so that's why I wanted to do this video because I think that's an important question to ask, and to have an answer to, some type of answer to, when you are going through this tradition and when you're new to this tradition, et cetera, et cetera. So with that answer, first of all, I have to say that I am not a priest. I am not anybody, like I have said in previous videos. I am fairly new, a baby in this tradition still. So I can't speak for the global community, to say what, or I can't even speak for Ifa, or the Orisha to say this is the definitive answer as to what this tradition is about. Um, but and I think that when you look at what is this tradition about, I think we have to understand that, in my opinion, it's not really about any one particular thing. I think Ifa is, in the tradition of Ifa, has many purposes that it serves in our lives, and I think that sometimes that can be a person-to-person basis. I have, in my time in this tradition, I have noticed that everybody, one of the lessons that Eshu kind of helped me to learn was that everybody comes a different way and everybody comes for a different reason. So yeah, so I don't think there is one particular reason, but in my experience and from what I have learned, and been taught, one of the major things that Ifa is about is what is called Iwa Pele, and I have heard Iwa Pele translated meaning, it's a Yoruba term, and translated meaning good character, cool character, or gentle character, all having the same, same point, that it's about building your character. It's about building your your character, having good character, developing good character as you go throughout your life. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the tradition is that Ifa kind of takes you as you are, accepts you just as you are, and asks you to grow from that point. So it's not like you have to be some pristine example of the teachings of Ifa or the principles of any of this tradition in order to be a part of it, in order to um, you know receive any of the ceremonies that are necessary, etc., etc. You come as you are, exactly as you are, wherever you are in life, wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in your understanding, and you grow from that point. And under the direction of your Ori, your ancestors, and your priests, whether that be a Ianifa, Babalawo, um, Ialosha, whatever it may be, whatever priest you're up under, um, with their help and their guidance, you will, and of course the guidance, of course, of Ifa, you will start to come along that path. And I think it's a thing where you have to be patient with yourself, you have to be patient with the process, and you have to be patient with others, because building your character, developing Iwa Pele, is a process. It's a process, and it's a process that is not always easy. It's a process that is not always beautiful. Well, I think it's always beautiful underlying, but it's not always pretty on the surface. I think there's a lot of, as a part of that process, sometimes you have to have some humbling moments. You have some moments where there will be tears. You have moments where, maybe there's a lesson that Spirit is trying to bring you that you really have to learn to humble yourself in order to accept that lesson, because your ego will, of course, try to get in the way. And so you have to be always diligent, always watching your ego and making sure that you are not allowing your ego to impede the process and impede the progress that Spirit is trying to help you to develop. So that is, if I had to say anything was the point of Ifa, that would be, I think, what I would say. It's about developing better character, becoming a better person, and also it's about getting on path, getting in line with your destiny, the reason that you came and incarnated into this life. As Ifa teaches, every person that is born has a destiny, has a purpose that has been established before they came into this life, before they were born. And so, of course, many people, as we see in our world, there are many people way out of alignment with their destiny. And being within the tradition of Ifa, applying the principles of Ifa, largely is about helping to get you back on track, get you in alignment with that destiny that you came here to fulfill. And the more you apply the principles of Ifa, the more you connect with your Ori, the more you connect with your ancestors, the more and the more you apply your readings, that you get when you get divination, all of those things kind of play together in order to help you achieve that destiny and get in line with that. But I think a very interesting understanding and a very interesting and important thing to understand is that just because everyone has a destiny, right? Everyone is born, comes from heaven, is born, has a destiny to fulfill. Just because you have that does not mean that you will automatically fulfill that destiny, right? You can go through this life, live an entire lifetime, and still not realize your destiny. And one of the other really important pieces to understand with that, and is to tie in the concept of Iwa Pele that I was just talking about, and how, as Ifa teaches, if you have bad character, if you have poor character, if you're not working on building your poor character can actually destroy your destiny, right? It can make it so that you get put off track, off out of alignment, and to where you are not able to actually fulfill that reason that you came into this world to fulfill. So the concept within Ifa of destiny and character go hand in hand, right? You cannot, you run the risk if you don't develop that good character. You run the risk of your poor character destroying your destiny. You know, um, so those are two very important things that I would say Ifa is about: building better character and getting in alignment and following or fulfilling your destiny. Um, so those are some very important things to keep in mind. Which comes kind of as a side note, comes into looking at the examples of the people that people are setting. So when you are, and I'm going to do a separate video about kind of how to find a spiritual home, how to find a spiritual teacher, and all of that. There's a vulture up here. But yeah, so I'm going to do a separate video on that. But that's one of the things that you do want to look for is when you come in contact with people in this tradition, look at their character. Look at, now, of course, no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one's perfect. We all have our human nature. We all have our flaws. But look at their character. Look at their life. Look at, is this a person that is displaying that they are doing their best in over time to display good character, and to build better character and to humble themselves. My Oluo has been in this tradition since he was a baby. He was born into the tradition. He's been training, for priesthood and everything since he was 5 years old. And, he is someone who has himself told me that, is humble enough to tell me as my teacher and my guide that he still has so much to learn. And so that was one of the things for me that really kind of helped me see that, okay, this is somebody who I can trust to guide me. That was one of many things because I have come in contact with other priests who are not that humble. I have come in contact with people who feel like you owe them something just because they have more knowledge than you. So always looking at people's character. Um, Another thing that Ifa is about, um, or one of the things that it's about, is helping us to come in alignment with human destiny, like collective human destiny. What are we as humanity here to do? And there's an Odu, in one of the Odu, in Irosun Iwori, it says, "Let us do things with joy. Those who wish to go may go, those who wish to return may return. Definitely, human beings have been chosen to bring good fortune to the world." Right? So that is one of the texts, a portion of one of the texts within the Odu, that teaches us that part of our purpose as humans, part of the reason that we have even been created, is to bring goodness into the world. Okay. um, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the word for human in, or human being in, the Yoruba language is Iniyan. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Iniyan, I believe, and it means chosen ones. But it's talking about humanity, like this Odu was talking about, collectively humanity being chosen to bring good into the world. Right. So obviously humanity is, in some ways we are doing that. There are people bringing good into the world, but there are obviously a lot of people that, we collectively as the human race, I think, are far out of alignment with that. So hopefully we get it together soon. But I think that's another one of the things that Ifa is about, is helping us to, through our destiny and through the betterment of our character, to come to a place where we each individually and collectively are bringing good into the world. And my own personal opinion is that your destiny, whatever your destiny is, whatever that thing is that you came into the world to fulfill, that is your ultimate way of contributing to that purpose of bringing good into the world. Right? I think that, I think in the Western world, in the Western mindset, we tend to think that our destiny, our purpose is about us, right? Oh, I have, people have this, they have this idea that there's this great big destiny that they have, and it's about them, and it's about what they want, and it's about what they need, and it's about their evolution. But in reality, our destiny ultimately is not about us at all. It's about what is our service to humanity, what is our way, our service to Olodumare, and our way that we are bringing good into this world. Right? So you may have a large, grandiose way of doing that. You may have a very small way of doing it. It may be something that is, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're whatever. I don't know what people's reasons for being here are, but whatever your reason is, that is your way of bringing goodness into the world. And so, the system of Ifa, the tradition of Ifa, is between the tenets of building Iwa Pele, good character, fulfilling your destiny, getting on in alignment with your destiny, is how we contribute to that purpose of bringing good into the world. And when we reach a state where all of us, like, imagine if all 7-8 billion people on the planet were striving for Iwa Pele. Imagine if all 7 or 8 billion people on the planet were striving for good character, striving to be in alignment with their destiny, striving to honor their ancestors. Like, imagine how different a world we might live in. Because if everyone was doing that, you would have happier people, healthier people, people who are working more in harmony with each other, more in harmony with nature, and it would just be a very different world. It would be a very beautiful world, and I think that there's still a lot of beauty to the world as it is, but we see obviously some forces at work that, um, you know, we probably would all prefer not to have. Um, so yeah, so I think, those are some of the things that I could say that Ifa is about. And something else that I want to share with you all, I'm going to read these points. I'll probably do a separate video, like individual videos on each of these points, and kind of talk about my perspective on them. But there's something called the 16 rules of Ifa, or the 16 tenets of Ifa. And I don't know, this is something that was given to me when I first came into the tradition, and that I have seen many other places as I've gone through my journey. And so I don't really know, honestly, the origin of this. I don't know if there's an Odu that gives these 16 points. I don't know if this is something that a priest has put together. I don't know what the origin of this is. But this is a very, these 16 principles are things that, um, you will see out there. And so I want to share that with you guys because I think that this also kind of helps to give a perspective of what EFI is about and what the kind of core tenets and core beliefs of EFI and the underlying principles are, right? And so there's 16 of them, so I'll just read them. So they are there. Point number one is there is one God. Point number two, there is no devil. Number three, you are a literal part of the universe, not figurative. Number four, you must never harm the universe of which you are a part. Number five, you must never initiate harm to another human being. Number six, sacrifice guarantees success. Number seven, it is your birthright to have joy, success, and fulfillment. Number eight, the Orisha live within. Number nine, the ancestors exist and must be honored. Number 10, you have a path and it is your goal to walk it. Divination provides the roadmap. Number 11, other than the day you are born and the day you are supposed to die, there is nothing that cannot be forecast and when necessary changed. Number 12, your spiritual and temporal capacities must work together. Number 13, heaven is our home and earth is the marketplace. We are in constant transition between the two. Number 14, you have no need to fear. Number 15, you return through your blood relatives. And number 16, you should grow and obtain wisdom during the process. So that's kind of in my own order. There's not like that's not in a particular order, but those are the 16 rules or principles of Ifa. And so as you see in here, it's a lot of there's the like one of the things is about being a literal part of the universe and not simply a figurative part of the universe. And I think that like all of those points are really important, but I think that point is something else that's really important to make note of about what Ifa is about, right? And as we learn the principle of Ifa, the principles of Ifa, and as we apply the principles and as we connect with the Orisha, that's one of the things, understanding that we are a part of this universe, right? Understanding that, in our Western society, we are very, very disconnected, especially those of us who grew up in America. We are extremely disconnected from nature, right? Which is one of the reasons why I like to come out here and do videos in nature and stuff like that, because, I feel like as people who worship, whether you are in the Orisha traditions or any other pagan, non-Abrahamic tradition, these are earth-based spiritualities. These are the Orisha are forces of nature. These are powerful spirits that control and have power over and are manifest through the forces of nature. This wind that you see and hear blowing around me, like this is a manifestation of Oya. You know, the sun is a manifestation. Like all of these things are manifestations of these powerful, powerful entities that we give honor and worship to. And so we have to understand that we have to take care of this planet. We have to bring our lives as we go throughout our journeys. We have to bring our lives more and more into alignment with nature and the universe. We have to kind of get out of the Western way of thinking that as humans we dominate nature, right? We control nature and understand that we are a part of nature, like literally a part of nature. You know, so that would be something else that I think is an important part of to understand about what Ifa is about. You know, so but what are some other things? For me, I have seen in my journey that Ifa is really the tradition of Ifa and the Orisha and the ancestors are really about giving you self empowerment as well. You know, this is not a religion. This is not a tradition. This is not a spiritual system that asks you to give over your common sense. It's not a tradition that asks you to give over your power. It's not a tradition that asks you to take what the priest says just because they're a priest. You in this tradition, respectfully, of course, but you can ask questions. You can, as you go throughout this tradition. Like a lot of people, come from a Christian background, and the way I grew up, you were not encouraged to ask questions. You were not encouraged to think critically. you are not encouraged to think for yourself. And Ifa is a tradition when you're with the right teacher, with the right guide, like my Oluo, for example. Like I'll ask him questions and he will direct me to my Ori. Like he'll direct me back to myself. He'll direct me to things that I've heard previously. He'll make me think. Like he doesn't always just give me the answers. He makes me go search for myself, right? And of course with guidance, right? So that way I'm able to feel empowered. And I love one of the greatest things I love about my Oluo is that like there's nothing at all about his energy that even hints at wanting for his students to be, what's the word that I want to use, dependent or stuck with him, right? Like he's pushing, like as he's teaching you, he's pushing you to be independent and be self-empowered and learn how to connect with Orisha yourself and learn how to connect with your ancestors and your Ori and not have to be like dependent on his interpretation for things, right? And so that's something else that this tradition I have seen is I've studied a lot of different traditions, and there has been nothing that I have studied that has been as self-empowering as this tradition has been. So I think that's something else that I would say in my experience that I feel like is another point of Ifa is helping us to become stronger, more self-empowered um, individuals and healthier individuals, right? And then when we all each collectively put all of this that I've talked about, when we all put together good character, alignment with our destinies, bringing good into the world, being self-empowered, etc., applying these 16 principles, as we each do that individually, then we are then able to come to the collective and bring that together collectively. So imagine 50 people coming together all on that same level. What would be possible? You know, And of course, this is real life, so I'm giving a very idealized perspective of how things could be, or maybe in my mind should be. But the fact is, we all are human. We all have human nature and, so on and so forth. But, these are the things that Ifa is really about, in my opinion. Now, as I go through my journey, I may discover more things that I feel like are a part of what this is about. But these are some of the things, and so I think that as you guys, as I'm going through my journey, I'm learning these things, and I'm working hard to try to apply these things to the best of my ability. And I encourage everybody who is new, or even if you're not new and you've kind of gotten sidetracked with things, you know, take these types of things into consideration. Um, in this, when you're as a part of this tradition and when you're moving through this, so that you can start to be better representatives. Because one of the things that I notice living where I live is that, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who, in my opinion, do not give a very positive representation of this tradition or any of its branches, which I think is very unfortunate because there's so much power here in this tradition to be used to and bring things to a better place. So I encourage everybody to really kind of think about these types of things and think about what Ifa means to you, and pay attention to these types of things if you're new as you're going through, because we really want to give not only good impressions of ourselves and our ancestors, but also a good impression of the Orisha that we serve and Olodumare and the tradition of Ifa and all of its branches as a whole also. Because there's obviously a lot of misconceptions out there about who we are, what we do, what we believe, why we do what we do. Um, so yeah, so just keep those things in mind, and yeah. So, but I've got to go because I got to get back to work. But yeah, so this is my video basically on some of the things that I think Ifa is about. So like the video, subscribe, share it. Yeah, and let me know. Leave any comments if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever. So, you guys have a great day, and I shall talk to you soon. Bye.